All right, guys. Today I'm interviewing Stanley Genadek from the landscapebusinesspro.com. Guy's done a lot of great interviews with marketing experts, business owners, and tax professionals. Stanley, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing, Brian?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful, wonderful. So tell me a little bit about yourself. What exactly do you do, Stanley?
But man, I am the jack of all trades and master of two, is the way if you're going to ask me to categorize myself. And that's something that I want to kind of drive home today. If we're gonna do a 30-minute interview here, Brian,
Mm-hmm.
there's a few things that I've been asked to some of the important points of running a business, and today I want to just talk about that briefly. But my line of work is I do landscaping. So the name of my company, genetic.com, we do landscaping, we do excavating, which is digging in the dirt, and we do retaining walls. And so that's where the jack of all trades comes in. We've got to be able to understand how to grade yards. We've got to understand how to lay down sod, how to lay down mulch, build retaining walls, install paver patios. And we got to know how to do all these things, all these crazy things that require all sorts of different skill levels. But then when you really want to become profitable, you got to master two. You got to take two of those things and absolutely dominate your market to drive home the profits, to create a business that's sustainable, repeatable, that puts profits in the back of your pocket time after time, job after job, year after year. That's why I'm in business, Brian. And if you guys are out there watching and listening to this thing, that's why you're in business. So don't get confused. It's very easy. As contractors, we get involved in these traps. We shared off the interview here the whole point or purpose of what I do,
Mm-hmm.
and it's I think I shared. Would you mind if I shared that with you,
No,
Brian?
actually, one of my questions was what's your goal with the podcast and what's your goal with your YouTube channel? What are you trying to do? Who are you trying to reach?
Oh, perfect. Thank you. So the story I'm going to share with you, I shared it already with you, Brian, but I want to share with everybody out there was, I was 13. I think I was 11. My dad had started working me for a quarter an hour. All right. So I'm getting paid a quarter an hour. He's a crop duster. I'm going out with him and I'm putting oils in the engine of the planes and putting chemicals in tanks. I wasn't supposed to be touching chemicals, but what the hell? And I'm watching all my buddies out there playing football, and I'm just at 4 o'clock in the morning going to work day after day. And I realized that he was not only my father, but he was my mentor. He was the guy that taught me how to run my business. He taught me how to stick to it, even when I shouldn't, even when I should have turned and burned, even when I should have taken off and ran sideways, ran for the hills on jobs. I had learned that you got to keep doing it. You got to be resilient. You got to stick with it. You cannot give in at the first sign of trouble. And so he passed away when I was about 38, right? But I had 38 years of a mentor, Brian. Do
Mm-hmm.
you have that? Does somebody else out there? Maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe not. If I didn't have him taking me by the hand and teaching me, I would have never accomplished anything. I would probably be working at Walmart, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I wouldn't be sitting in front of a video camera trying to reach out to people, trying to teach them. And I realized that not everybody has that. Not everybody has the opportunity to have that kind of education, to have a person that will actually walk them through and take them through the process. And I wanted to keep fulfilling what my father did for me for whoever would listen. And so I started to figure out, well, how can I do this? And the podcast that was brought to my attention, hey, you want to do a podcast? And the first time that it was brought up to me, I'm like, are you nuts? Are you are you flipping nuts? I'm a contractor. I'm a landscaper. A, nobody listens to podcasts, and B, what would I have to contribute? And I sat down and I really started. I listened to a podcast called The Smart Passive Income with I think it was Pat Flynn. All right, and it was kind of a niche type of a podcast. And I realized that he had a niche podcast, but it grew and expanded, and he was able to reach so many people, and he was inspiring people. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. I want to learn. I want to take everything. I want to learn what he did, and I want to take everything that I've learned specifically for contractors, specifically for landscapers, for lawn maintenance guys. I don't care if you're installing a kitchen countertop or if you're building a house, or if you're mowing the lawn, we're all exactly the same. We're
Mm-hmm.
guys that work with our hands to make a living. We work on crews. We work on projects. There's a common thread, a common denominator, and there's nobody out there trying to deliver information specifically for them to help them improve their business. But yet we're all almost identical. Like when you look at a concrete guy, when you look at a landscaper, when you look at all these different guys, different professions, there is still that thread that runs through all of us where you can pull me off of this crew and go put me onto this crew. But I still know that I got to get up. I got to put my pants on one leg at a time.
Mm-hmm.
It's about showing up for work. It's about the same skills, different skills, but the same business mind frame. And that's something else that we as owners, we as people that kind of get into these things, we got to understand we're entrepreneurs. First and foremost, if you're a single man operation, you're still an entrepreneur. We mistake being a contractor for a certain set of skills, and I want to make sure that we clarify that as well. Because yes, it takes skills to frame a house. Yes, it takes skills to understand concrete work. Yes, it takes skills to do hardscaping, landscaping, lawn maintenance. Of course, it takes skills, but the number one skill that's going to put more money in your pocket is being an entrepreneur, being a business owner. That's the number one thing. And that's something that when we become the best absolute business owners that we can, the skills become secondary. The skills to accomplish being a business owner become secondary. And you learn that you actually have to transfer those skills to other people. You actually have to take your skills and stop doing them. The thing that makes Brian the best at being Brian isn't maybe mowing the lawn. The thing that makes Stan the best at being Stan isn't necessarily being able to base the best block. It's about you, me, and the people listening to this knowing how a business operates behind the scenes. That's the number one thing that's going to make you happy. It's going to make you money. And then you teach other people the skills to mow the lawns. And that's the building blocks for them to move up the ladder to become better at what they do. It's a big thing because you got to understand, you're not just teaching them to mow a lawn, but when you're learning to run a business and you take those people and you teach them everything you knew where you were a year ago or 2 years ago, a year or two down the road, you can now teach them where you were at a year or two ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And maybe that's being a better business owner. And a lot of guys, I call it graduating out of my company. I love the guys that work for me, but I take them down and I'm going, this is what I'm doing. I bring them out to lunch. This is how I operate. This is where I think. And if you don't learn, you're going to keep working for me, but you should work for yourself. And when you're learning, you will eventually move out of my company and start your own company. And I have a lot of guys that do just that. They go from working for me to running their own business, to running their own crews, to doing their own projects.
That's awesome, Stanley. Somebody that will, put somebody else's future and somebody else's gains ahead of their own is that's a good deal.
Well, it's not ahead of my own. It's a win-win for me because as I build them up, I get a better person out of the deal.
Yeah, that's true.
You get a better person out of the deal. When we build our people up, when we become the wind under their wings, we actually improve our business, we improve our level of efficiency, and we become more profitable. And the worst part is when we push the baby bird out of the nest. When they leave us, then we have to start back over. That's the hardship for me. And of course, we don't want to see that happen, but we do want to see it happen. We want to see them go because I'm not always going to be here. Not always going to be able to, hold people's hands and help them up. And hopefully whatever they learn from me, they'll teach to somebody else and it'll keep going. And when I can't do that directly one-on-one with the person, I love doing it through either videos or podcasts or however I can reach out to them.
So would you say the actual skill of doing our service would be the easy part, running the business would be the hard part?
Exactly. Okay, I've had this conversation so many times, Brian, and you may have heard me say this before, and maybe people out there have heard me say it in the podcast. I can teach a person how to run a bobcat. I can teach a person how to run an excavator. I can show you how to knock down a house, to dig a basement, to grade a yard, to install mulch, but I cannot teach anyone how to care. I cannot teach a single person how to care about their job. And that's what I look for. I look for unskilled people that give a dang about their future, that want to improve, that are willing to commit the time, almost like a school, almost like a training course, because I've had guys that have come to me from the heavy equipment operator schools. They've paid for $8,000-$10,000 to learn how to run a laser, and they look at me and say, I wish I would have just came here.
Yeah.
Maybe I would have only been working for, you know, 15 or $18 an hour to start out with, but I wouldn't have paid all that money. And you're teaching me the exact same thing. In fact, I have to unteach them a lot of things and then reteach them how to do it, so that when they're interacting with their customer, they're not just operating a machine. Now they're interacting with a customer or a contractor, and they're actually doing it in a way that makes the contractor feel better. Because that's one of the other important lessons that we miss out on. It isn't about what you do on the job as much as it is what you do with the customer. It's about how you make the customer feel. The number one thing to repeat business, to increasing your profits, to every portion of this job, is making the customer feel like there is nobody that is more important than them. You don't even have to do that good of work on their jobs, Brian. If you make that connection with the customer, and the customer knows you care, and you spend more time doing things the way the customer wants, even though maybe some of it may be counterintuitive to what you and I would think would be important.
Yeah.
But the customer, you're doing it the way they want it done.
Yeah, that's some good advice. So when you were first starting out, Stanley, you touched on this a little bit, but was there times to where you was like, you know what, this ain't working out. I might not. I'm not good at this. Is there times you wanted to throw in the towel?
Let's see. Today's Thursday. I would say yesterday, Tuesday, Friday of last week. Yeah. Yes, it's constant. One of the things, Brian, and I say that a little bit jokingly, but I really mean it. Okay. One of the things that as business owners and contractors, I'm just going to call you business owners from this point forward. Okay. As business owners, you are going to get constantly hit day after day, year after year. Okay. And I want to make sure that you understand this, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get hit with big things and little things. You are the go-to guy. You are the hub in the wheel. Okay. And that's where we all start out. We're the center dot, and then we get a crew here, and we get a crew here, get a crew here, and a crew here. Everybody answers to you. You're a little pokey guy in the middle, right?
Yep.
You are the chief firefighter. You are the guy that has to figure out every problem, every mistake. And so you're going to be under a ton of stress, and it's going to build up. But then you also have these huge things, like maybe you do a $90,000 job and they don't pay you a dime. I've had that happen. You get falsely claimed for court claims against you. I've had that happen, where I've had to go fight court claims on things that I had absolutely nothing to do with, and provide proof and all this stuff. And it's just stressful. But you got to get back up, and you got to get back in the ring, and you got to keep going. That's the big difference. You got to keep going no matter what happens. You got to keep going.
Very good advice. Excellent advice. Can you give me some mistakes that new lawn and landscape owners run into?
So one of the things that I was looking at was, one of my next ideas is I wanted to cover the top 10 mistakes that contractors and landscapers make. And I thought, oh, this is going to be so hard. How do I come up with the top 10 things? And so I'm writing down some stuff, and then I'll be driving, I'll come up with another idea, I write it down, and I'll be driving and thinking and come up with something else. And pretty soon I look at my notes, I've got like 14 things, and the list is still growing. And I'm like, oh my God, what do we do right? That's going to be the hard list, right?
Yeah.
There's so many things we do wrong. One of the things that I want to point out is being the jack of all trades and master of two, how important that is. And I know we touched base on this at the very beginning, but I don't think we really drove this point home, okay? To me, one of the pivotal moments in my business was in 2007. We were doing between 1.5 and $2 million in business. We had 20 guys out there running, 5 crews going, and we were living the American dream, right? Multi-million-dollar company, rah, 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 rah. No money in my pocket. Boo, 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 boo. What the hell am I doing wrong? What is it I'm doing wrong? So I sat down with all my crew chiefs and I said, we are going to intentionally cut the size of our company by 50%. And they all looked at me like, what's wrong with you? What are you talking about? And I said, we're doing something wrong. The profits aren't there. And so this was right before the big economic collapse, Brian. This is right before everything went south. So I literally slapped across the board 50% cut in all of the amount of work we were going to do. So we weren't going to be doing almost 2 million. We were going to shoot for 1 million. But then the economy collapsed, and not only did they make my job of a 50% cut easy, then they helped me along another 20 or 30% on top of that. So now I went from 1.5 to $2 million a year in business to about $500,000 a year in business. A huge loss. But there were companies that were doing $50 million just disappeared, just poof, gone in that same year. The thing is, though, we specialized. So we went from being the jack of all trades to becoming the master of two. And when we specialized, we had the same profits at $500,000 as we did at 1.5 to $2 million.
Wow.
And what we then did is the specialization plan is a huge thing. And it's strategic specialization. So you don't just go out and randomly pick 2 things, okay? You've got to have a common thread between them. You've got to have point A connect to point B, okay? And they've got to have the same thing between them, but they've got to be different. You can't put all your eggs in one basket, right? And so we picked retaining walls over here, which is something that tons of competition. Every landscape company can install retaining walls. Lawn maintenance companies install them. Commercial property maintenance companies install them. Concrete guys do it. Everybody's doing retaining walls. So this is a hard thing to specialize in, but we are going to focus on this, and then we're going to focus on a highly specialized niche, which is swimming pool removal. Hardly anybody's removing swimming pools, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to be able to master swimming pool removal very quickly. That's going to give us an edge. We're going to become the master very quickly in removing swimming pools, and then we're going to refine and boil down that process, right? And then the retaining walls over here is going to take longer, but we're going to keep working on becoming known as the best of the best. We're going to showcase our work, and we're going to take on some jobs. We're going to buy some jobs. Okay, Brian, we're going to buy that job that runs along County Road 35E that 250,000 cars every day sees. And so when I say buy that job, we're going to do 1 or 2 big projects at cost. We're going to document it. We're going to pictures along the way, videos. We're going to let everybody know that after we're done building that job, you want to see our work? Do you drive down 35E? Oh, you do. Just look to your right. We are the retaining wall that is 1 to 1.5 miles long and 20 feet tall. Can we install your 4-foot tall retaining? Hi, in the background. Can we install that retaining wall that is 4 feet that goes in front of your yard? Yes, we did the one that was 20 feet tall. That's 300 feet long. Okay, so no problems there. We can do DOT. And when you become known as an expert, sometimes you got to do things that are a little counterintuitive to become known as an expert. But you buy that job or 2, you make sure that you use that. Don't let that go by the wayside. You take on those jobs, you highlight them, showcase them. The finer niche over here, we don't have to buy these jobs, but we got to refine the process. We got to refine this process too, Brian, don't get me wrong. Yeah. But when we remove the swimming pools, we learn from our skill set, and then we figure out, okay, it should take 5 days to do it, but we're going to do this, 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 and this, and it's going to take 3.5 days to do it. So now we have less labor cost. And now we were used to buy the dirt for $100 a load, and then pretty soon we were buying structural fill soil, finding closer places, finding where all the pits were, and that's helping us refine our process. And then we're also giving, over here in the swimming pools, we're giving a flat rate price. Nobody gives a flat rate price. But here, you call up on the phone, I don't have to go see your job. I've got 17 swimming pools on my schedule to remove. This is the average cost. Now it's just like going to Walmart, Brian. When you go to Walmart, you pay the same price as everybody else for your gallon of milk. Makes you feel comfortable. You got a warm, fuzzy feeling. Look at me. I pay the same as everybody else for my gallon of milk. But now you've got you got a job that costs thousands and thousands of dollars. It's social proof. Well, hey, I've got 17 jobs that I'm doing all at the exact same price as you. You feel equal to everybody else. You've refined that process and boiled it down to the point where a level of equality, a level of comfort, which helps people want to go with your service. And then you keep working on both the top end and bottom end. So in our case, then I created this mapping system called dirtmonkey.net. Okay. Mm-hmm. And you may have seen the video online, but what it is, and every contractor, if you're a contractor or landscaper out there, use this system. It works across the whole United States. But right in Minnesota, where I'm from, I called up all the contractors in my area and said, go to dirtmonkey.net, put your dirt up for free for 14 days. And what it is if somebody has dirt here and somebody else needs dirt over here, I can just go, hey, this guy is just this far away from me, right? I'm right now trucking it way over here. I can call this guy who's half the distance, and I can just bring it right to his site and dump it for free. And so I was able to start bringing dirt into my pool demo jobs for free. I had guys delivering dirt to my sites. I would literally, Brian, sit in a skid loader just like this with my microphones on my head, right? And be listening to my books, because that's what I listen to while I'm working, and have them bringing dirt into me. And I'm like, I'm not running my trucks. I'm getting the dirt for free. And I can charge my customers the exact same price. And it's cost me, every time I go out to a job, costs me less and less and less, which means I make more money. I'm refining the process. Now, if I didn't specialize, if I didn't say, we are going to focus on pool removal and we're going to focus on retaining walls, if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be able to refine the process, putting more money. Now, at 10 years later, I still charge the same thing, same price, charge the same price. After 10 years, I make more money now than I did 10 years ago. Wow. That's about specializing in your company. That's about becoming the very best at one thing, but don't put all your eggs in your basket. Find the common thread and become the very best at your second thing as well.
All right, Stanley, give me an example of how somebody in my line of work, somebody who does yard cutting and bed maintenance and tree trimming, how we can take what you're saying as specialize in something. Give me an example how we would do that.
How about townhome association maintenance? How about becoming the absolute best at mowing small to medium-sized businesses, or townhomes, or a certain niches in your marketplace where, oh, you've got a townhome association. Well, you call it Brian. That's what he focuses on. He's got a crew that specializes in working with, because you got to sit down with the board. I work with townhomes, and when my company building the retaining walls for them, right? Mm-hmm. And I've got to sit down with the board, and I've got to meet with them, and I've got to go over plans and get everything laid out. Maybe you're Brian, the townhome association guy, or you're the small business guy in your community, or you're the residential guy that specializes in senior living communities, or you work in this neighborhood over here only, and you do stuff in this neighborhood for these people. I've seen concrete companies, when they work in a neighborhood, Brian, sign goes up on the front yard, and pretty soon, boop, 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 all through the neighborhood, signs are popping up they just work in a neighborhood, and it's just like, wow. There's so many different ways to skin a cat. There's so many different ways to become highly specialized, whether it's in a community, or if it's for certain associations, or for certain businesses, or for certain other things. Yeah, you may cut grass, you may do lawn maintenance, but there's different ways to specialize doing that.
Mm-hmm. See, you touched on this also. I wanted to ask you, since you brought it up, I had an idea of taking a yard in my neighborhood and offering a free cut and putting a sign in that yard. basically doing that yard at cost or doing that yard in my neighborhood as far as free advertising.
Okay.
What would your thoughts be on something like that?
You're giving a little bit too much away unless you don't have a foothold in that neighborhood. You don't
Hmm.
really have to work for free. Maybe at cost you want
Yeah,
to do it or
maybe
something.
just a
Because
cheap.
I bought jobs before,
Yeah.
Brian. I mean, just to get that level of notoriety or to get in there, you get into that neighborhood, start establishing yourself in that area, and then tell your customers, you know what? Hey, can you send some work my way? Here's a dinner on me at the local steakhouse, or here's a $25 gas card or something,
Hmm.
and you want to have it equal across the board. A gas card is a great thing to be able to hand out. Maybe it's a $10 gas card. Anybody that signs up, I'm going to give you a $10 gas card. And maybe as an incentive, you give them one. You give them one right out of the chute. Here you go. Think you can help me sign some people up? Here's for your efforts. Because now you've indebted people. There's a mind frame where people hate favors. They don't like being on the receiving end of a favor, Brian. I
Yeah.
mean, really, it makes you uncomfortable. It makes me uncomfortable. You want to repay that favor, don't you?
Yeah.
When somebody gives you a favor, and it's a trick to use. It's a tool in your tool belt. The little subtle things, I love them. It's a big thing that makes a difference, right? So you indebt somebody into, they owe you a favor. Maybe you give them, you know what, I so much appreciate you let me come in mow your lawn. Here's a $10 gift card. If you could maybe pass my name out to some people and help me expand my business. You know how many people they're going to try to go out and
Yeah.
get for you? You're going to get two, three, four. They're going to keep spreading the word 2, 3 months down the road. They're going to keep going. It's all those little things that make a big difference. I love it. I love it.
Tell me about your podcast, Stanley. I want to know some of the people that you interview.
So the point of the podcast, we'll get into some of the people I interview, but the point of the podcast is a solid take home piece of advice. Okay. And 30 minutes is what I feel is about the maximum attention span that a person can give. You get into an hour or so and you kind of burn out. I've done enough meetings to know that 15, 20 minutes, excuse me, you can't get enough information down, right? You
Hmm.
just can't dive deep enough into a topic. And so we go for that 30-minute and we try to bring home something that you can take home. When you're done listening to the podcast, you're better off than when you started. You've got actual boom, I'm going to implement this in my business and it's going to make a difference. When I look for people, I look for two sets of people. Okay, I look for people inside of our industry that we can learn direct things from. I just interviewed Jeff McManus from the Landscape University. He heads up the Ole Miss University, and he goes around to different colleges and teaches them corporate culture. I love this corporate culture, a huge topic. Okay, so he's an insider, specifically doing what we do as contractors, as landscapers. But then I go outside of the stream. I got Vanessa Van Edwards on from the Science of People. This gal is absolutely amazing. I mean, mind blowing. I mean, the stuff she talks about, body language for contractors. Guess what, Brian? When you're going out and you're talking to a customer for the first time, there's certain things you should do and certain things you should not do to land that job, to negotiate a bigger deal, to put more profits in your back pocket, to help you get, I call it the science of getting signed. Okay?
Hmm.
You want to walk away with the signature on the dotted line. Really, that's what it boils down to. And you ever get that gut feeling? Have you ever talked to somebody, Brian, gone, I nailed that one?
Yeah. You kind of know when you're talking to them what's going to happen.
Yes. Yes. And then there's times when I've got more work to do. Well, it's because it's the reptilian brain, right? Okay, so we're going to get more beyond this contracting. It's the instinctual part of your brain tells you, well, I either got this, it's stranger danger. I either got this or I don't got it. It's all the nonverbal cues that are out there. And it's that part of the brain that is functioning on a higher level where our cognitive brain, we're going, oh, what are we going to say? And how are we going to say it? And how are we going to put our numbers together?
Hmm.
Well, your reptilian brain is telling you all the other stuff. This guy's picking up what I'm putting down. This guy doesn't buy it. This guy thinks I'm a liar. Look at this. You're getting two different, complete different sets of signals. right? And when you understand, you got to trust your gut more so because that part of your brain, that's survival. Brian, that part of your brain was built for survival. I don't want to get ate by that big freaking lion that's around the corner, right?
Yeah.
That's a stronger part of your brain than the cognitive part that's telling you got to write your numbers like this and you should present it in this format, right? So you got to learn how to control both. You got to learn to trust your gut, the reptilian part of your brain, and then you can actually extrapolate that out and go, how do I understand those nonverbal cues? How can I use that magic, that power that lies deep within us to go, okay, I want to actually apply this. So when I'm at a meeting, I can pick up on the subtle things. And it goes beyond arms crossed. Well, everybody thinks arms crossed means it's tuned out, but actually arms crossed means I could be just freaking cold
Yeah.
at the moment. You know what I mean? So there's other things going on that people can't control. And so I called Vanessa Van Edwards on and I said, hey, you are the expert at this. You've got 189 videos on body language and understanding it. Can you come on and specifically talk to us about body language for contractors? So we hit on that. Then Mike Michalowicz, call him up. Hey, Mike Michalowicz, you wrote Toilet Paper Entrepreneur, teaches people how to start a business. Then you wrote the Pumpkin Plan, which teaches people how to refine that business, how to become the jack of all trades, master of two, right?
Hmm.
And then now you've wrote Profit First, which teaches us how to take our profits, put them in our back pocket, and then start paying down our bills. Will you teach us all these things? Will you come on? He's like, yeah. This guy is a flippin' amazing. This guy is, I love this guy. This guy was, I'm just like, he should not be talking to me, right? And he is giving not only everything that he put in the book, but more so. And he teaches me stuff behind the scenes. Not like he doesn't take me under his wing, but leads by example. He's like, hey, Stan, I got a great guest for your show. Emails me out of the blue. And I'm like, wow, that's phenomenal. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And the little things that I pick up by watching, like I'm like a monkey. I'm a monkey on the side, and I watch how the gurus work. The little things that they do that if it impresses me, I know I can take that away and I can impress other people. And then I can go, I am going to do that. I'm going to take the things that I learn on the side, like the little monkey I am, watching everybody else operate, and go, I'm going to teach you. I'm going to teach anybody else that will listen. And so I get them from all sorts. I get people outside of the business coming in, they're teaching me. People inside of the business teaching me. And I say teaching me, teaching us, because whatever I learn, I'm going to teach you. And then I'm going to take a lot of people don't want to come in. They don't want to interview on my show because they're like, I know nothing about being a contractor. I'm like, that's why I want you.
Yeah.
That's why you've got to be on my show, because you don't know anything about being a contractor, but I do. I've lived and walked this journey since I was, what, 9, 10, 8 years old? I don't know, however, 11 years old. I was getting paid a quarter an hour by my dad. That's when my journey started. I'm 43, so I've got 30 years under my belt.
Hmm.
You don't have that. And I don't want to know your experience as a contractor, but you know how introverted people lead. Jennifer Conway, can you come on? Daryl Lyons, Christian-based organizations, bringing Christ into a company. Maybe that goes against some people's religious beliefs, but this guy, he almost had me crying. I'm just like, oh my God, I wish people would share this more often. And it's just like all these little things that people, their own skill sets, their own specialties, they bring in, and we apply towards you. You take away with you.
So that's
That's
kind of
what.
the way I feel right now, Stanley. Interviewing you, I feel like I'm out of my realm a little bit. Like, what's this guy doing interviewing Stanley Genadek? But but the way I look at it is, this is a teaching tool for me. This is for me to get information from you, and that's going to help me in my business and just in my life. And I feel like, if I can share that with other people, then it's a good thing.
Perfect. I love it. I love doing these things, Brian. So thank you for having me on too, by the way.
Oh, I appreciate it very, very much. So, lastly, Stanley, what do you want? What do you want to tell all the new business owners out there? What's the one thing you would share with them to get them to succeed, to get them to have a successful business?
Oh, there's so many things to cover. Never stop learning. Okay, that's a huge thing. Never quit. Never stop learning. Sometimes it's better to quit, but if you quit, you're giving up on your own dream. Okay, you're quitting. You're only quitting yourself. You're only cheating yourself. And a lot of it's all trial by fire. You're always going to have trial by fire. You got to stay strong. You got to reach out to people like you, Brian. Reach out to people like me. Reach out to people that are doing it, that are willing to share these videos. This wealth of knowledge. This didn't exist 30 years ago when I started.
Yeah.
Okay, I had my dad. Now you guys out there, you've got Geek to Freak, you've got Keith Calfest, you've got me, you've got you. You've got people that are willing to share and learn and grow. Now everything that I say isn't going to apply to you, okay? And everything you say isn't going to apply to your audience. So learn to pick and choose as well. Learn the good things, the strengths of everything, just like we just talked about where I bring these experts in over here and these experts in over here, right? Well, not everything I say is going to work for your company. And there's going to be things that you're going to hear me say that you better call BS on. Okay? Because I don't know everything.
Yeah.
I do the best I can, and I'm going to share that with you. And then it's up to you to go, yep, he's right at nail, head, boom, he hit it. Or this guy's, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, right? So don't be afraid to let me know these things. Don't be afraid to pick and choose the information that works best for you, but don't ever stop learning and growing and trying. And I'm a student. I'm a student before I'm anything else, just constantly trying.
That's the kind of way I approach, especially watching YouTube videos and watching other videos of people explaining how to do things. Is, I don't want to say I nitpick, but what I do is I intently watch, and sometimes you'll be watching and you'll be just listening, and then all of a sudden they'll say something, and you're like, oh, that's a good tip, and or even the videos where you're just watching somebody do something and they're not really talking. I watch those all the time, and I'm like, okay, how is he doing that? Okay, that's how he did that. Okay, and I think YouTube's a very, very powerful tool for people to learn.
I got a request
Okay.
to the audience. If you know somebody good for me to interview, send them my name and number, will you? Email me, stan@landscapebusinesspro.com. I love talking to people, and I love hearing from the audience. Absolutely love it. Literally makes my day when somebody sends me in a question or wants to reach out or wants to know the process. Absolutely love hearing from the people out in the audience, and I love hearing about good people that I should be talking to, because whatever they know, I can bring to the rest of everybody else. And your questions is the same question that somebody else may have.
Well, that's great, Stanley. I do. I really appreciate you joining me. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to do this and help me and help a lot of people that hopefully will watch this video.
Perfect. Thanks, Brian. Appreciate you having me on. We release a new podcast every week at the landscapebusinesspro.com. And if you listen to the show, if you're out there and listen to the show, if you like what I'm doing, a 5-star rating or a 4-star, I like 5 better. But a rating or a review actually does help us get noticed. That's really the lifeblood of the podcast, and it's feedback. I thrive off feedback. So anybody that could, let me know what I'm doing good or what I'm doing bad, I'll take it and try to run with it. So Brian, thank you.
I
Appreciate your
appreciate
time, my friend.
I appreciate you as well. Thank you, buddy.
Have a good one now.
Yeah.